Hi guys, I am Amanda. This is Jake, and we are Sunset Highway Farm. We had a farm, for the last 6 years now. We've been running a farm. Really, more what we do now is we teach a lot of classes on how to farm, how to homestead more specifically. So how to grow and preserve your own food, and we've typically done most of our presence has been on social media, so Instagram and Facebook, but we have found that at this point, with what we're wanting to share, it's really hard to fit it all into 30 seconds, and we'd like to be able to do some longer form content so we can really dig into things and share more about them. So Jake had an amazing plan for the year with our classes that we're teaching, all of our gardening and food preservation classes. A lot of people feel like they cannot grow. It's almost not worthwhile to garden because they don't have enough space. They think that they need a bunch of property to grow a bunch of food, and that's the only way that they can really provide for their family. And so with a small backyard plot, they really can't do much. And we constantly try to tell people you don't need nearly as much space as you think. So Jake came up with this brilliant idea. Share it with us.
So we're going to try to do, for some of the people in our classes and just for our own understanding, is to take this flower garden that we already have that's a 1/4 acre and see if we can grow enough food on that 1/4 acre to live off of for a year. So that will be animals, both animals and a garden. The plan is to have a couple pigs, rabbits, meat chickens, laying chickens, and then as much of the space that's left for a garden. And
the garden will be the thing that gets the first amount of space.
Right, which is Amanda's side of things. And she'll get her pick of the spot. But from there, we'll cram in the corners where we can the animals and just see what we can do. We have in the past, we have 10 acres, so we've had this same sort of operation, but spread out over a larger area. And so what we want to do is try to condense it into a 1/4 acre, which we really think is doable. A lot of the reason that we need the bigger space is just because we have everything spread out so much. So if we condense things and we're really thoughtful about where we put everything, we're pretty sure that we can do it. And so we thought we'd film it just so that other people could see what we're doing and see how it works. At this point, we source our beef. So obviously we're not going to raise a dairy cow or a meat cow on a 1/4 of an acre. But which we haven't been already, but we think we can raise pretty much all the rest of the meat that our family will eat. 100 meat chickens, several dozen laying hens, you think?
Yeah, probably 30.
30 laying hens, rabbits, 4 to 5 rabbits, 3, something like that.
See what we're feeling like. We're not super excited to bring the rabbits back in.
Yeah,
we'll start
we
small.
love the rabbit manure.
Actually 5.
Okay, we'll do 5.
When you bring the garden in. And then the garden.
And maybe bees, if we can get bees going again.
Our hope is to share one that you can produce a whole lot on a 1/4 acre, and you don't need nearly as much space as you think to produce a lot of food, basically. 2, we have a lot going on. We have a lot of kids. Jake works full-time for the railroad, so he's gone anywhere from 40 to 60 hours a week, and then oftentimes he actually has to go out of town, so then he's just gone for the week, period. And then I work full-time. Between all the classes we teach, and I have a couple kids we're homeschooling still, or I'm homeschooling, and then I teach out at my kids' school also. I'm kind of going in a million directions, and so I don't have very much time left over. It's actually really ironic. I teach gardening and food preservation full-time, and I have no time for gardening and food preservation because of it. So our hope is just to show that it seems like the two biggest things that our class members especially say that they don't have is either space or time or both. And so we're limiting the space that we're going to grow on. Our time is already limited, and we want to just share what that looks like in a year, share what the homestead year looks like week by week. So we want to try, hopefully we can hold ourselves accountable to this, but we want to try and share kind of a summary each week of what we did in the week, so that all of you can see week by week what it looks like to just work toward preserving a year's worth of food week by week through the year.
Growing and preserving.
Growing and preserving.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the other element, is to preserve it also.
Yeah.
Right.
My mind just really focuses on
It always does, yeah.
the preserving. All right, so that's kind of the plan. And before we just jump in, it'd probably be helpful to have a little bit of background on our, what would you say, methodology on how we go about growing,
right,
and what our philosophy is on growing. So,
yeah. So we don't use any pesticides. We don't fertilize with any traditional fertilizers. We use compost tea, and biochar are kind of our three big soil amendments. We would like to do all of our composting on site. We do source a little bit of composted horse manure from a local horse rancher. And we're big on compost tea, and we're big on biochar as two really huge things in improving our soil. We don't till. We broad fork, which we'll show you guys, if you're following us, you'll see that later on down the line. But we do not till.
Except for the very first time we break new ground, we'll till. But after that, we don't till ever again. Right.
So we might be tilling a little bit with this new plot. But we don't till. After the first year, we never till. And the reason for that is we're trying to promote the microbiology in the soil, specifically the fungal life. So tilling just damages that. So we're pretty adverse to tilling. What else? We store, we're growing. Amanda grows. So Amanda does the garden. I'm the soil and the animals. Amanda does all the gardening. She really plans growing from a preserver's perspective, if that makes sense. So she's always thinking about, okay, I want to grow this type of vegetable because I can preserve it and it will last this long. So everything's planned and scheduled to grow to feed us throughout the year.
So before the season ended, we had a little bit of time. So we decided to go ahead and just do a little bit of preparing of this flower garden and just bring it back to a clean slate, because it had weed barrier laid down and it hadn't been mowed. We had left it fallow for the year because we have a lot of bindweed, which, if you don't know, bindweed is the same thing as morning glory. It's a noxious weed, and it is, I think, one of the hardest weeds you could possibly have to get rid of. The seed lasts some crazy amount of time. I think it's like 30 years the seed can still germinate in the soil. It's still viable. When you pull it, every time you pull it, the roots split up and then it duplicates, and it'll just grow more. So if you try to weed your garden and just pull the bindweed out, you'll just end up doubling the amount of bindweed you have. And it is very prone to getting powdery mildew. And then as it vines up, it's like a ground cover plant, but it's also a vining plant. So it'll choke out your plants because it'll just grow around them until they can't support themselves, or they can't support the bindweed anymore. And then it'll also spread powdery mildew to everything growing. It is like a cancer wherever it is. It just takes over and it expands and kind of just slowly kills. So we have that in the flower garden, and you might be thinking, why would you then go grow in that area? But a lot of people have to deal with bindweed, and there's not a lot of great solutions in dealing with it. A lot of people just say you're not going to be able to grow for years. You need to just cover the ground and totally kill it. So we think, well, instead of trying to go and start everything where there's no issues, we have this area fenced. This is a common problem that a lot of people are dealing with, and let's try our hand at dealing with it and trying to grow in it, and we'll share how that goes, I guess. So in this video, it's mostly Jake. You can see I had a time lapse of just what that looked like of preparing that space. So do you want to talk about what you were doing?
Yeah, it's been months ago, so I don't know if I remember. But we went through and pulled up all the weed barrier that was there, pulled all the weeds, piled all the weeds up to get ready to burn. What we have there is we have a 1/4 acre or so. We have willows. I don't know if you can see in the video, we have willows along the backside that we planted as a windbreak and a privacy fence from the neighbors. Right. They're hybrid willows. So they're like a fast-growing willow. And then also within this 1/4 acre, we already have what was a guinea hen pen or coop. And we're going to convert that to a chicken coop because it's already there. So that'll probably be where our laying hens start out. And then we still have to build a pig, some sort of pig pen, the meat bird pen, which up to this point we've moved our meat birds every year. So I don't know how exactly we're going to do that. We still have a lot of planning and figuring to do. I really want to put all of the animals at the uppermost elevation-wise point of the garden, so that as the rains come and the manure from those animals gets leached downward into the rest of the garden. The problem with that is it's not exactly the most practical place to put the animals, because then we'll end up with gardens on both sides and kind of the animals being the first thing that you see. So we have to plan this, and Amanda and I will have to compromise where we want to put everything. But
and when it comes to gardening, I'm not very good at compromising.
No, Amanda's got her idea, her vision, and that's what I love about her. So we'll just go with that. But the laying hens spot is kind of already set. So now we have to figure out where the pigs are going to go, and then what we're going to do with the meat chickens and rabbits. We're going to do, which we've raised a lot of rabbits. We don't eat a ton of rabbits, but we're going to dabble in rabbits. Our kind of thought on rabbits is that they're when we open the freezer and we have a chicken and a rabbit next to each other and we're trying to decide which one to have for dinner, we never grab the rabbit.
Always going to be the chicken.
Is just, we like chicken better, and I think most people do.
It's not that rabbit actually tastes very similar to the dark meat of chicken, or like if you're familiar with duck, it tastes very much like duck meat without the duck fat to it. So it's just a super lean meat. And if you're raising it, it's not gamey. It doesn't taste like deer or something, but so it's good. It's just not, without the fat component, it's not as good. So then if we do cook rabbit, then I'm adding in chicken fat to try and tenderize the meat a little bit more and make it a little bit more moist and juicy. And then it's like, well, I would rather, it's just easier to cook with chicken. But the advantage to rabbit is that they reproduce like crazy, but you can really easily control their reproduction just by not putting the male and female together until you need, babies to raise. And then 2, they grow out very, very fast. So you can have a ready-to-butcher rabbit in 8 weeks. 3, they are in very small cages, so you can have them in the smallest backyard. They're silent. No one would ever know you had them. And you can raise out, if you had a litter of 6 to 10 meat rabbits and you raise them out, if you have one large cage, you can raise them all out in that one cage and get, 30 to 40 pounds of meat probably from one litter in one cage. And they're very cheap to feed, and you can even very easily grow the feed for the rabbits. So that it's just like, of all the meat sources that are really self-sustaining, as far as like something someone could have as in case something goes wrong and you need to provide meat for your family, I think the rabbit is like the very best choice for anybody.
Right, because it's important to know that if things get difficult and we are forced to survive on our own, your animals still have to eat, right? So pigs, for one, are one thing that if we're no longer able to go to the feed store and buy the feed that we buy, we don't have a way to feed the pigs. We could get by for a while, and we put pumpkins up, and we do set things aside to feed our pumpkins as much of our homegrown stuff as we can, but we can't
feed our pigs as much of our
pumpkins. I say, to feed our pigs as much as we can. But you have to be able to. We can't grow enough food to feed our pigs out to butcher weight. So rabbits, you can. I mean, rabbits will eat grass. They'll eat almost anything.
And chickens will forage too. Chickens and rabbits will be an asset in a case of an emergency. Pigs would be a liability. They would be something that, like, you're having an emergency and then pigs are just adding to the emergency, basically. So, and then what are you going to do? You're either going to let them die and lose the meat and all the money you put into them, or you're going to be faced with processing them in the middle of an emergency and then trying to store the meat in the middle of, like, no matter how you slice we thought they would be some great backup, like, okay, our family's covered, we've got meat out in the field, and we've very quickly realized once we started raising them that they are, the thing is, things go wrong with pigs when you most need them not to. So anytime you're needing to go somewhere, that's when the pigs get out, or you need like the garden, you really need the pigs not to get into the garden, that's the pigs get into the garden. Like, it's just, the nature of pigs is
Right.
if they can ruin something, they will.
Right. And if we follow this through and we film ourselves doing this quarter-acre farm throughout the year, you guys will see problems with pigs. I almost guarantee it. But there's a ton of benefits to having pigs. The meat is super healthy. There's a lot of things you can do. Amanda does a lot with the lard.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of benefits to having pigs. So don't let us sour you on pigs. They're great. They're just, as far as like a survival food in a difficult situation. We're trying to sell you on rabbits in that case. Rabbits are going to be a lot better than pigs.
But we're still going to raise pigs. So,
we're going to raise, I think, 2 pigs, the rabbits.
We'll probably do lard. We're planning on doing lard variety pigs, are we? Or no?
They're slower growth, so I was going to do
That's
a bacon pig.
Oh, yeah. Maybe one of each.
One of each would be good.
I need more lard.
Okay.
It should be fun. There's probably a lot that's going to go wrong. Hopefully there's no pigs getting into the garden this year. That's the one thing I'm really nervous about is now we're just condensing. We're putting the pigs even closer to the garden with even less between them and the garden. This last summer, 2024, we had 6 300-pound pigs spend the night in our garden in July. And so it was too late to replant, and they did as much damage as you can imagine 6 300-pound pigs doing in a garden. So it was pretty devastating.
Yeah, that's a real concern.
So yeah, there will be some challenges, but I am very confident. I'm not confident. I know things are going to go wrong, but I'm confident that we can actually probably grow everything we need to grow in the quarter acre. It's just going to be like, a matter of not letting the pigs destroy the garden type of thing.
Right.
As long as that doesn't go wrong, the amount of space I'm confident in.
You are, okay.
Are you not?
No, I think we can.
It'll be tight.
Right. Yeah.
The 100 meat, when we have the pigs are getting big and the 100 meat chickens in there before they get processed, although that won't really overlap. The pigs will be pretty small still. Well, no, it'll kind of overlap.
Yeah.
It will be tight.
Yeah, I think we can do it, but I think it's going to be a challenge. I think keeping, like you said, as the animals get bigger, it's going to be a challenge. I think we can do it, but I would say 50% confident we can pull this off.
You're only 50% confident.
Say 60 maybe.
Bet on that? No, just kidding. I'm more confident than that. Maybe not much more confident though.
We can.
So
the temptation is going to be, okay, we're running out of space here with the chickens. Let's just move them out because we have the space. So we're not living in town where we actually have a quarter acre. We do have a little bit more space than that, but we're trying to intentionally limit ourselves to a quarter acre. So the temptation is going to be
to cheat
or to just let's just move these pigs out. And if we do that, we'll be honest with you. We're not going to cheat as far as our audience that's watching.
Hiding it. Yeah.
But I would really like to pull it off without doing that, keeping it within the quarter acre and sticking to it. I think we can, but I have no doubt that we'll get through this, whether or not we have to bend the rules a little bit.
Well, that's good.
At 50%.
Was there a doubt that we might not get through it as a family?
Right. Yeah, we have to stay married and we have to stay alive.
Wow. I was thinking like a light challenge. You're really
No, we got this.
No, I'm kind of looking forward to it. We've gotten bigger and bigger every year and done more and more. And so the idea of having, instead of the challenge being how much more can we do this year, which seems to be the theme of every year we've had so far, we really pared back last year and kind of made last year the theme of we're going to shrink down and kind of take a break. And so
we didn't get to the break. I mean, last year was just the work was shrinking everything, which we have it now there. So
so I think now this year to continue on with that, challenging ourselves to do to a really small space. There's something really exciting to me about that, of just a smaller space is just much easier to manage than a bigger space.
Right.
By necessity, we'll have to do much less. So it'll be kind of a nice, it's something different.
Right.
So I will be, for reference, it's going to be a third of the garden I've ever done like this. It's been years and years since I've This is how would you say that? This is the smallest garden I've done. This is 30% of what I normally garden.
Yeah.
Is that how you'd say that? Yeah.
But you normally grow flowers. You normally grow toothache plant. You normally grow a million weird things that we don't have to have.
True.
Loofahs.
We have to have loofahs. Those are non-negotiable. You were just telling me you're out of your loofah in the shower. Don't even act like I'm the one that wants the loofah.
Well, okay, I'm just saying there's a lot of things we grow that we don't have to grow to survive. We're on the...
Well, I mean, yeah. You don't have to have a sponge, but ought to.
Okay.
So the loofahs will be being grown. Anyway, yeah, so it should be a good year. We're looking forward to it, and we're hopefully going to be able to see this through and actually share week by week.
By week.
By week. We're hoping this isn't like a New Year's resolution that ends at the end of January. That is highly possible.
No, we'll make it.
We're going to do it. All right. Well, that is a wrap on welcome to our plan. No, I don't know. You end it.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll be seeing you.
That was even worse. How do you end these?
I don't know. I think you just fade to black.